As we wind down to the end of the season of The Wish and the whole Lightfall chapter of Destiny 2, I figured it would be a good idea to just sort of do a checkup on PvP, see where we stand as a whole, as a community. And what I saw in terms of data from the API kind of validated some of the things I've been feeling about PvP for a while now. But while I think that Bungie has made some great strides, honestly, truth be told, I think they've made some great strides in PvP lately in respect to the sandbox, weapon tuning, subclass tuning, and obviously the banger map pack that we were delivered this season. I do feel like PvP as a ritual activity is, I don't want to say it's on life support or anything, but I feel like my player pool at least is smaller than it used to be. I'm seeing a lot of the same names, I'm having imbalanced matches, and I think there's a lot to talk about here, and I want to make sure that we try to make a distinction between what we feel is true and what is actually true, and I think that only comes with community discourse. So I would encourage you, please contribute to the conversation today as I talk through some stuff, and some of this video is going to be scripted, some of it's going to be off script, so we'll see how it goes. This video isn't supposed to be like doom and gloom as much as it is maybe an expression of hope for the future as we gear up to dive headfirst into the final shape next week. So, all right, let's get cruising. Now, the first thing that I want to zero in on is the population in PvP. So historically, Destiny 2 PvP has been, it's been a massive part of the Destiny experience. In fact, just a couple of years ago when things were pretty lean in PvP, honestly, we were still seeing like 40% of the total D2 population actively engaging with PvP on a weekly basis. So yeah, that's just under half of the total population that was consistently playing PvP. But that number is very different today. It's down to about 6% of the total population. That's 6 out of every 100 Guardians, or rather roughly 1 out of every 17 Guardians in Destiny 2 is actually playing PvP. So yeah, I mean, it used to be half, roughly. And the thing is, that number, it actually tends to, it does tend to trend downward as we get towards the end of a season. Total population, at least, does tend to trend downward as we get towards the end of a season, heading into a new DLC. So that's not like it's necessarily uncommon per se, but that 6% is lower than it usually is at this point. Now, I did speak with somebody internally, and they said this season is a little bit different. So this is why there's some nuance to data. So while we may see that, my initial reaction to that 6% was like, oh my gosh, PvP is freaking dead. But they clarified, total population in PvP actually is pretty similar to what we usually see at the end of the seasons. The only reason you see that 6% of the whole is because we've had this Into the Light, event that has really driven up, like considerably driven up the PvE side of things. And then we've got these exotic missions as well that came very late in the season, which doesn't typically happen. Admittedly, it doesn't typically happen. And that has really skewed things more PvE oriented at the end of this season in a way that previous seasons haven't had. So you can't just look at the 6% and immediately have this knee-jerk reaction, say, oh my gosh, PvP's dying, it's dead. And that was, admittedly, that was my first thought when I saw that 6%. And just like, it was a sucker punch to the gut. And then I also think this is important to say, I don't know why this is still a thing. You still get I get these people all the time who are like, yo, Destiny is not a PvP game, it's a PvE game, and it just happens to have PvP, so it could just die for all of us care. It's like, yo, come on. Like, if you have that opinion, just know that the people who make the game think you're wrong. Okay, it's not just me. It's literally like the game director has said, listen, there is no we do not see any form of Destiny that does not have PvP. PvP is a core part of what makes Destiny what it is. So you can give up on this idea of us dropping it. So just know that if that is your opinion, that, oh, this is a PvE game, PvP is just sort of a feature. It's like, look, they don't agree with you, the people who make the game. So let's just get that out there. But the next thing I want to talk about is why the population feels small. So according to raw data, it looks like the PvP population is not actually that terrible right now. It's not amazing, but it's not terrible or in like a dire state or anything. But it feels small. Why does it feel small? Why do I have long queue times? Why do I see the exact same names in my lobby match after match after match after match? It's like, oh hey, it's you again, Alika, it's you again, Jingleheimer, it's you, all these people. It's like, if I get to see them any more frequently than I already do, I'm gonna start being invited to their weddings. I see all of you guys all of the time. And that just doesn't seem to compute when you look at a population size that's in the 6 figures. You're like, well, how does that make sense? If there are hundreds of thousands of people playing this game in PvP, why do I only see 12 of them? And the answer to that is actually, and this may shock people, but the answer to that is because there's two things going on here. One, it's primarily connection-based. It's primarily connection-based matchmaking. I know people still like to crucify skill-based matchmaking and say, oh, SBMM and quick play is what kills my experience. There's really not right now a lot of skill. Like, skill is not the primary factor when it comes to creating a lobby of 12 players. It's not going out there and trying to find people that are at your skill level anymore the way that it used to. Okay, it is trying to keep outliers. It's trying, not to say there aren't exceptions, but it is trying to keep outliers out of your lobby where a 10 shouldn't be matching a 1, a 2 shouldn't be matching a 9, things like that. But generally speaking, it's not matching you based on your skill anymore. It's primarily trying to find people with a good connection to you. So, because of that, the list of people that you can match with gets a lot smaller. So while there might be 170,000 people engaged with PvP in the week, your pool might be a lot smaller than that because it's going to limit it based on who's close to you, who can you have a good connection with. So your pool just got a whole lot smaller. The other factor there is that there are just a lot of playlists. So you then take your pool of players that just got cut down to a much smaller number than the totality of the player base. And then you're going to split them up among several playlists. Some of them might be in Rumble, some might be in Team Scorched, some are in Control, some are in Comp, some are in the Quick Play 3v3 playlist, some are in Momentum Control. Like, there's so many places for them to go that we're not all being funneled into the same playlist at the same time, which makes it a lot more difficult. That is one of the reasons why Trials is still one of the most successful playlists, where the queue times are pretty quick. I'm not matching the same people over and over again in Trials either. I mean, that happens sometimes, some weeks when it's especially lean, but generally speaking, I get quick queue times, I get variation in my competition, and it's pretty good. It's a pretty good experience. That's because that's one of the only places where we all funnel to, we all gravitate to every weekend. So you don't feel that sort of small population feel that you do feel during the midweek when you're trying to play Control and then you're trying to play this other playlist and then you're trying to play this other thing. So for sure, I think one of the primary things that Bungie could do is start to consolidate these playlists a little bit. Even when we head into a brand new DLC where we're going to get an influx of players, I think consolidating it and maybe just giving people 3 or 4 options during the midweek to engage with. That way we're not splitting the player base up 7 times once you get into the PvP node. I think that would be a great place to start. Another thing that, admittedly, I think that Bungie may want to take another look at is both lobby balancing and the way that they quantify player skills. Right now, I think they're kind of failing to do a great job here when it comes to quantifying player skills. So let me show you some matches just from one gaming session yesterday in PvP. These are all from the same gaming session, and I promise you I won't show you the same match twice. So within one session, I played a game where one team had a 16% chance of winning. One team had a 12% chance of winning in another game. In another game, a team had a 13% chance of winning, a 21% chance of winning, a 16% chance of winning, one with an 18% chance of winning. And when I posted this online, another person posted their game where his team was given a 6% chance of winning. Now, like I said, this was all in one gaming session, and these were all quick play matches. So this is the place where the majority of gamers are going to dive in. And let me ask you, if half of your matches you had no chance of winning, would you continue to play? Sure, you may be the one stomping one match, but then your next match, you're the one getting curb stomped. So if half of your matches you're getting curb stomped, are you going to want to stay? Probably not. You're likely to disengage with the playlist, and according to what people are telling me, they are feeling that pressure. They are wanting to disengage because they have that experience a lot, and that's rough. So I do think the Bungie needs to maybe rethink the way that they quantify player skill, and I think that's a factor as well as lobby balancing. I think the two things go hand in hand because obviously they measure your skill and then they balance the lobby accordingly, so they think they're making a fair and balanced match. And I think that's difficult. I'm not saying that's an easy thing to do. All they got to do is fix this, and that'll be no problem. But I do think maybe they need to rethink the way that they quantify player skill, because I think that player skill is something that fluctuates. It's not the same all the time. It depends. Am I running my sweaty stuff that I do in Trials of Osiris, or am I just trying to goof off with a sweet business? You know what I mean? And also, just because I might be a 9 out of a 10 on a skill scale, does that mean that I can go toe-to-toe with 4 8s? I mean, probably not. Probably going to get my butt kicked in that sort of a situation. So I think that there's other factors that play into it, and it's not just as easy as averaging out the skill levels on both sides of the teams. So I think that maybe they need to go back to reimagining how do we actually quantify player skill, and I think that might help with lobby bouncing as well. Now, the next thing I'm going to take a swing at is not actually Bungie. It's you guys who are left. Like, hey guys, can we talk a second? Why the frick are you sweating your junk off in Control? And don't act like it's because the population is low. Don't lie to me. You've been playing Conditional Igneous for months now, non-stop. And before that, it was Unending Tempest. And before that, it was the Immortal and all that stuff. And I'm going to be real here for a second. You guys who only play full meta at 120%, taking sixes super seriously all the time, you are directly contributing to the decline in population. And I know you hate hearing that. And you want to say, no, it's Bungie's fault. Hey, listen, I'm not saying that they're not at fault, but also stop kidding yourselves, because you never switch off that stuff. Even when you see an entire enemy team using Monte Carlo and Sweet Business or whatever it may be, you keep that crap on, don't you? And you see how high you can push your kill count. You are absolutely lying to yourself and everyone else when you say, oh, it's because quick play's so sweaty now, I have to sweat all the time. That's bullcrap. If that was the case, you'd be switching to Rat King or some crap when you see an enemy team, which is a bunch of lowlights and newbies to the game. But instead you think, hey, this is open season and I can pad my stats. So listen, I will defend to the death your right to play with whatever you like in Destiny 2. But that doesn't mean I have to respect it. And if you only play full meta in quick play to see how high you can get that kill count and that KD, then I absolutely do not respect it. And I think that you're mega lame. And every time you stomp a lobby, chances are pretty good. You just made one more player decide PvP isn't for me and force them out of the game and the population goes down. Boom. Moving on. The next factor that I think is contributing is that players don't have a reason to play PvP right now. When PvP was booming back in the day, we had pinnacle weapons to chase, we had god rolls to grind for, we had armor ornament sets to chase. But what have we had recently? Belisarius? A trace rifle in Trials, a grenade launcher, a linear fusion rifle, friggin' blowout? Like, you kidding me? If you want people to play PvP, then pony up and put some good stuff in there. For comparison's sake, the Root of Nightmares completion rate in Destiny 2 is massive. That's a raid. A lot of people have completed Root of Nightmares. Why? Is it because it's the best raid ever? No. It's because Conditional Finality is the raid exotic that can drop from Nezarec. Plain and simple. PvP players switched to PvE in droves to go chase that shotgun because it is so incredibly good in PvP. Maybe the best PvP special weapon in the history of Destiny 2. Can you imagine if Bungie started putting loot like that in PvP? You'd see some more players come over and start grinding Crucible, like they did, by the way, with Recluse and Mountaintop. But right now, there's really nothing that people feel compelled to come chase over here. It's sad, but that's the reality. There may be one gun here and there, but we need a full vendor refresh to encourage people to come interact with PvP on a more regular basis. We need emotes, emblems, shaders, weapons, armor ornaments, the works. That will get people playing again. And the last factor I want to talk about today is a little more difficult to quantify, but ultimately this is reliably true. If PvP is fun, people will play it. At the end of the day, that's why any of us play whatever game we play. It's for fun. Life is friggin' stressful. It's hard. We worry about how we're going to get that bill paid. We worry about maintaining our homes and vehicles while pouring our energy into our work, trying to manage our relationships that are meaningful to us, while also trying to make sense of our world and even our existence. And at the end of the day, while dealing with all that stuff, we just want to sit down and have some fun disconnecting from all that and plugging into a community and a new world where we can become legend and make our own fate. If Bungie wants people to come play PvP, they need to spend their energy trying to figure out what makes PvP fun to begin with. How do you bottle up fun? How do you ship fun? That's what's going to give them long-term success in the PvP department. Achieving perfect balance doesn't always mean achieving perfect fun. Explosive fun is what many of the best seasons of Destiny have been about. Perfect balance may very well mark the most mundane and watered down seasons of Destiny. But I do want to hear from you. If you're disengaging with PvP, then let me know in the comments section what factors led to your departure. And if you still play Destiny PvP, what makes you keep coming back? Let me know down below. I do try to read all those comments, and thank you so much for tuning into the video today. I appreciate each and every one of you. I'm really looking forward to diving into the final shape grind, so expect lots of content from me in the coming weeks. Be warm and well fed, my friends, and I hope to catch you in the Crucible.